Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into another episode of Product Unwind. In this episode, we have a very special guest with us. Hi Ed, welcome to Product Unwind.
Oh, hi. Thanks for having me.
So how's your day going yet?
It's going great so far. Love waking up and having these amazing breakfasts with Indian hospitality here.
Oh, wow, that's really wonderful. Ed. So if you could give a brief about yourself to our audience out there.
All right. I'm Ed Essey. I'm the Director of Business Value in the Microsoft Garage. I've been in the garage for 10 years and at Microsoft for 22 years. And I'm really passionate about other people's passions and helping them turn their passions into impact that they want to have.
That's really wonderful. Ed. So what was your journey into product innovation space? How did you start? And what are your tips to the beginners on starting their journey?
So my journey into the space, I grew up with parents who were entrepreneurs who ran their own businesses, and my father's father was also an entrepreneur and had started businesses. So I was used to sitting around the table at home where my parents would talk about the business that they ran every day and do the manual steps for running the business. And as I got older, I would do little things to help out with that business. And I always saw myself as having my own business or being able to put my own ideas out in the world. And throughout college where I went to it at MIT, I knew I would be, I was always excited about business. I was always working at startups as internships between my years in college. And it wasn't exactly the route I was planning because I graduated college in 2001, right when the dot-com bubble burst. Job offers were being rescinded left and right. In fact, I had 3 in a row that were rescinded before I ended up taking a job at Microsoft. And I never wanted to work for a big company. I always kind of avoided Microsoft at career fairs and so on. But what I've come to learn is that, while not entrepreneurship, but intrapreneurship can happen in a big company. And I was fortunate to continue to be put on version 1 products at the company until I eventually had my path forward to the role I have today. But your question is, how did I get into product? And that was basically the road for me. I went to computer science at MIT. I was really interested in new businesses, and I ended up having a role as program manager at Microsoft to start my career.
It's really wonderful. So what are your tips to the beginners on starting their journey into product innovation?
My tips for product innovation: 1, get your hands on as many products as you can, ones you love, ones you don't like. 2, really think about what it is you like and don't like. And a big part of thinking is talking with other people about it. So get used to talking with other people who like talking about products, hearing their side, sharing your side. And when you're not talking with others, write about it. It helps you really kind of hone your thinking about what makes great products. And then the third thing is, so much great product innovation comes from bringing in products from domains other than the ones that you're working on, bringing in other ideas. So I encourage people to read or otherwise consume content from as many fields as they can.
Thank you so much, Ed. So how do you define innovation in the context of product development and business growth?
Definition of innovation. I looked this up recently, and there were in a survey of materials, there were over 62 definitions of innovation. So thanks for, instead of asking me what is the definition of innovation, asking me what's mine, because it's personal for others. I'll share kind of 2 answers to this. So 1 is, innovation is about finding new ways to create, deliver, and capture value back in return. Then the other way is, I've realized that innovation is often used with innovation leaders in a few different ways. And sometimes people are asked, hey, can you create for me an innovation, like a fruit? Create for me a thing that's an innovation that I could take to market. Others are asked to create innovation as if it's a tree that will regularly produce different fruits that you could bring to market. Now, in my role in the Microsoft Garage, we don't focus on, the garage is not focused on a fruit or a tree. We're instead focused on the soil. So a culture in which people are constantly being collaborative, creative, and experimental with new ideas that can create, deliver, and capture value.
That's wonderful, Ed. So what innovation framework or methodologies do you find most effective in driving the growth?
Frameworks and methodologies. So ones that I'm most inspired by are the lean startup, design thinking, and various agile planning and agile delivering methodologies. Now, they are all three of these, and there are many others that I borrow from all the time. They're all created for specific contexts. So lean startup was created for startups. Design thinking was created for an agency trying to create new products. Agile was created more for kind of consulting businesses that are trying to deliver in fast ways. And so all of these need to be translated in various ways to the context you're at. So where I work within a large organization, I found that similarly, bringing in these ideas and transforming them within the organization works. And we in the Microsoft Garage have learned through years of working with teams things that actually work in the trenches with hackers. And so we've taken the best parts of these, translated them into the organization, and we call that the Garage Growth Framework.
Thank you, Ed. So how do you balance the need for innovation with the risks associated with trying new things in a business?
Yes. So it's the need for innovation versus those risks. It's often referred to as having an ambidextrous organization, where on one hand, organizations need to relentlessly execute on known business models, and you can't risk those, right? So that's what you're talking about, is the risk you want to avoid. Like for Microsoft, we can't risk the business of, Microsoft 365 or of Azure. But at the same time, we're always exploring and bringing in new things, like we recently have with generative AI. And so on the other hand, you have to keep exploring new business models and creating new business models that we could bring in. And so how do we do that? How do we work on exploring new business models without hurting the old ones that are running the entire company? So we look at processes of de-risking those ideas, and that usually involves in a controlled and phased way, like starting with a small initial audience that might have the sharpest need for something, getting something into their hands as quickly as we can, testing that, and in a phased approach, move from that small idea to what the big vision is in a series of phases where we're deliberately testing the riskiest assumptions each step of the way. And as things get ready, we could transition them into the other hand, where they're either impacting our existing businesses in ways that are now de-risked, or potentially even becoming a whole new business for us.
Thank you, Ed. So can you share an example of growth strategy you have implemented that had a significant impact on the product or company?
Yeah. So as I think about this, I could, in some ways I'm thinking about the, hundreds of teams I've coached across Microsoft and strategies they've done. So I'd like to, I'll share one thing we've done with the Garage Growth Framework that I mentioned, which is as we learn ways that product teams or even hack teams are becoming product teams and moving their ideas forward, and we've encapsulated this through coaching, we realized that our coaching method doesn't necessarily scale as itself. So we really wanted to scale. And here I'll share a framework we've ended up creating. So we create a kind of a pyramid in different levels of touch. So the highest touch method we have, we call a fellowship program, where we take the teams that need the most help and assistance and also have what we see as the largest potential, and invest a large amount of time, like sometimes even 6 months, we take a group of people out of their day job, and this becomes their new day job for that time. and we embed with them and focus on making that. The level below that is coaching, where we're offering kind of hours of coaching per team to help them reach the objectives they want to have. Below that, we offer workshops. So this is fellowship is high touch. Coaching is medium touch. Below that, we have a low touch offering that we do as workshops, which are usually 1 or 2 instructors to many people. And then below that, we even have no touch. So we've taken a lot of what we've learned and have made it so that it's self-serve online materials that could help people move forward. So by having this sort of pyramid of different levels of touch and working with people, we're able to really scale at the bottom. And at the top, we're able to really focus on depth. And so having these layers, having offerings at all these layers allows us to, for every team we're working with, to adjust appropriately to what that team needs. And in a way that keeps our resources free, because, we don't have infinite resources for all the, we had over 16,000 projects in the last hackathon. We can't, in the Garage team, work with all of them one-to-one. So by having these different layers, it enables us to, at the right time, bring our offering up to the level of touch that will help them the most.
A wonderful framework. Thank you so much. So how did you measure the success of your innovation or growth initiatives that you have?
Okay, so in the Garage, we focus on 3 main types of value: employee and cultural value, business value, and customer value. As the director of business value, I focus on that middle one. And there are some way, we use 2 different sets of metrics. One are tracking the progress. Like basically, are we doing what we said we would do, and is that moving forward? But then we're also tracking the types of impact we're having. And in terms of the impact for business value, what my program is about is helping hackathon teams turn their passions into impact. And so we have learned along the way that sponsorship is the key thing for that. So we track a percentage of projects sponsored. But even digging in deeper on that, we now have multiple levels of sponsorship that we look for. And so we sort of represent where every cohort of projects we have is, like, as a histogram of how far along they are in these levels of sponsorship. And so we're constantly working to see, can we get projects from right to left along that continuum or levels of sponsorship.
Thank you so much, Ed. So what are some common challenges that companies face while they try to innovate and grow? And how do you recommend addressing them?
Okay, yeah, the common challenges. So I would say one is fear, uncertainty, and doubt that basically stops them from moving from, basically what you were talking about before about how do we innovate when we're still afraid of the risks to our existing business. So that's the first one, is overcoming that. And I think I already addressed that one. A second one is underinvestment in ideas, because often they're underinvested. The other one is, probably see this a lot, is overinvestment in ideas. So often an idea that comes from the boss might get 50 to 100 or more resources on it before it's been de-risked at all, because the boss is believing their own opinions. And I would say the last one, or the last hurdle to it, is there not being pathways for projects to move forward. If somebody has a brilliant idea, do they have a way to quickly and cheaply test that and move it forward? So I'd say those are the 4. I've addressed the first one through the phased approach of de-risking with your market. The second and third one can be addressed almost together. And the second and third one, again, are underinvesting or overinvesting in projects. So you could also address that a bit with a phased approach, which is for each project, give them the minimal resources they need for a small scale first phase and the cheapest tests you could possibly have to move each step forward, and you're gradually increasing the phases. So that's no matter who it comes from, if it's the most senior person in your organization or somebody who is brand new and entry level, no matter what that is, follow a similar approach. Now, for the other one, the absence of known pathways. So if you're working top down, you have the ability to create pathways for projects. There are different types of projects. I could go into that in a lot if we have time. It's 5 main buckets, but for each one, you want to create pathways that can move them forward from idea to impact. In the absence of that, so you say, hey, I'm not the leader, right? There might be a number of your listeners who aren't the leaders and who can't create the pathways themselves. In absence of that, I offer coaching. And that's why we created the coaching methods that we have in the garage. That's to help teams understand the uncommon paths forward, or like figuring out how to go off-road when there isn't a road. And for people listening, I'll give a few tips on that, which is often it's really getting clear and understanding what the needs are of the project to move forward. A lot of people make the assumption that what they need is funding of some kind, whether it's money or people. Though we found that often influence will be able to unblock us in certain ways. So I encourage teams to think about how far can they get with what they have? And then what is it that they actually need to go a step further? If you're working in software and so on, it's like you often don't need budget. If you're working in hardware or physical goods, you often need some small amount of budget, but maybe not as much as you think. You don't necessarily need to have a funded team of 8 people or more working for a long period of time. Maybe you just need enough to be able to create an inexpensive prototype.
Thank you so much, Ed. So how do you stay ahead of curve in this rapid changing business landscape and environment? And how can leaders foster a culture of innovation within their teams?
Okay, so 2 questions. How do you stay ahead of the curve when everything's changing? So, one of the strategies we take. So I would answer this question differently if you're an innovator in the organization versus you're an innovation leader in the organization. So if you're an innovator in the organization, I always encourage people to watch for what we refer to as waves. So, I don't know. Have you ever surfed before?
Yeah.
Okay, you've surfed. Okay, so you went for surfing classes. So, do you ever notice that when you're surfing, maybe you're with an instructor who has you keep going over and over again, but what are the other surfers in the water doing?
They're trying their own, as far as I've seen, they're trying to get their surfboard into the water and wait for the waves and then try to launch by themselves.
Right. Or what about the experienced people, the people who are very good at surfing? Are they catching every wave that comes in?
No. So they're waiting for the right wave. They're going into the water, deep into the water. Since we were the beginners, they're going deep into the waters and waiting for the right wave and then.
Right. And they'll sit out there for a long time talking with the other surfers who are experienced. They'll keep looking back over the waves that are coming in on the horizon, but they're waiting for some sign of one wave that's bigger or better to ride than another. Right? So what is it that they know? These experienced people who've spent lots of time riding the waves, and they began like you did, like I did. They began that same way, trying to catch everything they can. And over time, they got more and more experience reading the waves that are coming and seeing the big ones worth coming. This is the same thing for innovators to do, is to early on practice doing something, catching almost every wave that comes up. But over time, you learn to spot the good ones coming in. And you learn that with practice. Now, there are ways to practice this, similarly to how I was suggesting, actually trying products and working with them and learning about them. You want to do the same thing with waves. So, read the paper, read the news, see other startups that are creating, watch them, try to make predictions about what they're going to do, who's going to be more successful. Even if your predictions are wrong, that's helping you get better at spotting waves before they come in. So you could even get better at spotting waves as a surfer, just sitting on the shore, watching what the pros are doing. You get even better if you sit out there on the board with them and hear them talking about what they're doing. And so do the same thing as an innovator.
That's a really wonderful. Thank you, Ed. So what has been your most rewarding experience in working in this growth and innovation sector?
For me, the most rewarding experiences are all about the people. Is it okay if I give two? That's okay. Okay. So one of them is there was a team of people I helped, a project called Mirror HR. It was created by a wonderful man named Roberto D'Angelo, whose son had a stroke and cerebral palsy when he was very young and was living a life with epilepsy. And he was waking up multiple times at night. And parents feared for his life multiple times every night. And Roberto had this belief, like, in order to help my son, I need to help everyone like my son. And he he created nonprofits to help. And he also started hacking in the Microsoft Hackathon, bringing teams of people together who cared about people like his son. And they eventually won the Hackathon Grand Prize in 2019. And he made a project called Mirror HR that helps detect the patterns that lead to seizures so that they're able to intervene before these seizures happen. And now Roberto had shared to me that in the last 3 years, his son has only had one seizure because they've been able to identify the things that cause it. And not only that, but they've deployed it to over 1,000 families who have children with epilepsy. And those people who were before feeling hopeless, helpless, and alone are now having full nights of sleep. Their kids are living healthier lives. So that's one. Another one, there is a woman who also led a project. She had seen a type of corruption in the marketplace when she was doing work in the supply chain. And she shared this idea and this story with me. And I was so inspired by her passion. But her project, she had made this pitch. It was all over the place. It had way too much detail. She talked about it in way too much complexity. And I ended up spending a few hours that night with her just asking questions, to where we really were able to simplify what it had. I pointed out things that didn't work. Later on, I had a conversation with her. She just wanted to spend some time with me, and she took me shopping she was a Chinese woman, and she took me shopping in a Chinese grocery store. She was telling me, and she was really helpful for me, helped me prepare a dish. But while doing that, she shared with me that, I believed in her more than even her parents did. But that after that first call with me, she ended up crying because I think, one, it was a combination of me believing in her, but also her realizing how much she needed to learn on this path and how hard it was. And I've got to see that woman grow in her career through the levels and where she's now leading a solution to that corruption opportunity that she's seen. She realized that, hey, if there was corruption there was value to be captured for the people who weren't corrupt. And she ended up making a solution that was an industry-winning solution in supply chain, and she gets to lead that as her life and her passion in life. So that's just an example of, like, we who are in the innovation space are changing lives of both the innovators and the audiences.
Thank you so much, Ed, for sharing those wonderful examples and all these insights with us. So in conclusion, wanted to know, like, how does your day look like? Any interesting stories that you want to share with us?
All right. So my day. So I live in Seattle, Washington, United States, on the West Coast. I usually wake up fairly early in my day, and I begin my day with some mindfulness rituals every day, some meditation, some journaling. I have I actually have a prayer that I say to myself every day that I view as like the boot up code on my brain, and I tweak the code every day. But okay, that's how I get started. And then after that, I usually start meeting with teams of intrapreneurs based in India, because the Microsoft India Development Center and in India has so many amazing projects coming out that I wake up every day like working with projects in India. And then as the time zones move, I start working with Israel and Europe and Africa, and then the East Coast. In there, I often get a little bit of time with my family, like to take my kids to school. And then at some point, it's like, oh, I realized that I've learned a lot in that day, and I debrief the day with somebody on my team to talk about what did we learn? What did we learn from it? Because although I've been doing this for 10 years with hundreds of thousands of teams, I learned from every single one. And we're trying to always make from the higher touch experiences, we're trying to make the lower touch experiences better. So in the afternoon, we're finding ways that we improve the artifacts that we've already created so that other people will benefit from that. In the afternoon, I might take a little bit of time to reflect, or I go for a walk in the woods. And in the evenings, I often work with teams who are in China or Asia, so ones that I can't wake up quite early enough for. And then I like to wrap up the day with sort of journaling about what I've learned in the day, and sometimes following up on things that I promised other people during the day, so that say you're in India, you get to wake up with the answers in your inbox from questions that I promised to answer for you. And you wanted me to give some interesting stories about my day. Okay, so here's one of kind of a crazy thing I learned. So we're about to release this product to market, and at the last minute, I realized I'm not sure if they've done all the legal checks on what they have. So we ended up getting a quick legal review of the app that was about to go out to market, and realized that they were using a font that was not an approved font. It was made by somebody. It was a really cool font, but it was made by somebody in Spain. And we read the license in the font. That was, fortunately, you could use it if you tell me about it, right? So it was at night, on Friday night in Spain. And we found this person, and I actually found his Instagram handle. And I was messaging him on Instagram on Friday night, and he was at a discotheque dancing in Spain. And I explained the thing to him at the discotheque, and he approved the project. He approved the project to use this, and we released it to market on Monday.
So that's a very interesting story. So we conclude by your 3 favorite book recommendations and people who had inspired you the most in this space.
Okay, so favorite book recommendation. So although I just like I believed it's important to understand products outside your space, it's also important to read outside of your space. I'll do my best to share books in this space. I'm going to share 2 in and one out. So first, probably one that so many people know already, which is The Lean Startup by Eric. Just an amazing book on taking that iterative approach to de-risking your project. And Eric is also a wonderful man who's helped. He's helped review projects that we've had in the garage. He's helped review and give information on our methodologies. He even once, when my daughter was born, sent her little outfits to wear. So he was just really thoughtful in that way. So he's one of my favorite people in that regard too. Another book I really like is Hacking Growth by Sean Ellis. It has a lot of stories in the trenches of particular growth strategies that have worked for products. And it also has just a great way to think about how the marketing of a product and the creation of a product and so on work really well together to have the kind of outcomes that you. So it's a really kind of people first approach to innovation from the point of view of a team on the inside. I was going to share one outside, but I thought of a third one in the innovation space I really want to share, which is Talking with Humans by Giff Constable. And he wrote another one called Testing with Humans. But it's really good at taking customer development and explaining it from the point of view of what happens like moment to moment, day to day in that process. I had the fortune of meeting Giff Constable in person when I was speaking on a panel at the Lean Startup Conference many years ago. And Giff shared not only early versions of his book with me, but he shared a number of artifacts and has allowed us to use them in the methods that we use in the garage. He's also allowed me to blog about some of them and how we use them in my own personal blog. People want to know, it's my name, edessey.com, if you want to read some of these.
We'll definitely add it to the show notes as well. So thank you so much, Ed, for sharing all these wonderful insights. We're looking forward to have you again.
Awesome. Thank you. I would love to. That would be wonderful.